What up, y'all? We are filming a podcast Saturday afternoon. This is supposed to be the Coda podcast, guys. I've been very lazy this week. I'll be honest. If you're watching this, I appreciate it. This is not going to be a typical 45-minute podcast because no one probably gives a crap about me talking about Coda when we got today the Xfinity Series race when it's being filmed and the Cup races tomorrow. But I didn't want to talk about it. I am going to post it. Also, we got fan questions, so that'll kind of be the big bulk of today's episode. A lot of news happened this week. We had NASCAR countersued 2311 from Motorsports, also Curtis Pope in that. There's a lot to get to that. I'll probably come out with a short with that on my social medias like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Also, Austin Cindric. We'll get to that. That'll be our first thing to talk about. Will not be suspended for his right hook on Ty Dillon. And then also Chase Briscoe won his appeal from his modification that he was caught with, and at least NASCAR found when they took the car to the R&D center. So he is back, and he's inside the playoffs now, like +3 to the cut line. So that's great for him. We'll get all of that. I'll have separate little shorts that I'll post about that stuff then. But let's get into the podcast. Well, I'm in the podcast, excuse me. But I want to bring up Austin Cindric was fined 50 points, driver points, and an additional $50,000 for his right hook in the early in stage 1 at Coda. A lot of fans and drivers had their thoughts. People felt like, with past history, that this should have been a suspension because Kyle Busch on SiriusXM said, I think intent is intent. I do not agree with the call. I don't care when it is. Daytona, Martinsville, Watkins, it's not his first time either. He got off with that one. So Kyle Busch feels like if you're going to right hook someone, it doesn't matter. Intent is intent. I have to agree in a sense because unless, I feel like when someone right hooks someone like that, all they see is red. I don't think they're like, oh, I'm going slower here. I'm going to do it here. And maybe they do. Maybe they think like that. But when they see red, they see red. And I agree. But NASCAR, the reason they did not suspend Austin Cindric was from Bob Pockrass. The driver was traveling at a slower pace on the road course versus an intermediate/speedway. Dillon had no significant impact or damage, was able to drive on. No caution. One race suspension did not feel appropriate. That was from NASCAR that Bob Pockrass kind of paraphrased about. Well, Chris Rice, who's the president at Calling Racing, said that this was a 6-figure accident. A 6-figure accident. That's a lot of money, okay? So, really, NASCAR's reasoning to say that, he drove away, wasn't that hard of a hit. Well, I bet you it wasn't that hard of a hit, but it still cost a ton of money. It ruined Ty Dillon's race. And when Kyle Busch brings up that this has happened before, well, I think it was in 2023, Austin Cindric right hooked Austin Dillon, the other brother of Ty Dillon. Now, a lot of people would say, Austin came up there, but, there was an instance similar to this. And also, Seth Ager, I believe that's how I'm pronouncing his last name, said there was other 2 familiar accidents to this that were not suspensions. Carl Edwards, back in 2010 at Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and then Johnny Sauter in 2001 at Richmond. Yeah, the Carl Edwards one was nasty when he pretty much turned Brad Keselowski into the front stretch, coming to the finish, and cars were coming full speed. That was a scary wreck. That was not a suspension. That was also in the Xfinity Series, but NASCAR didn't want to suspend Kyle. They did not want to suspend Carl Edwards from a Cup race whenever there. And then also Johnny Sauter. I don't remember that accident. That was in 2001. I have to go back and see it. But those are 2 similar accidents that Seth is referring to that were not suspensions. But look, I personally am on the side that it should not matter what track it is. If you have the intent to right hook someone, you deserve to be suspended because that's what NASCAR is setting. The precedent has been set, with Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, and then Bubba Wallace. They've all right hook guys at bigger tracks. Well, technically, Austin Dillon, he right hooked Hamlin. That was when he wrecked Joey and then right hooked Hamlin, that was at a slower track, but that was still like 2 back-to-back instances that got him a suspension. I think I agree. If it's intent, you gotta suspend him. Because now with this new rule now if you get suspended for a non-medical issue or a birth of a child, wait, let me back. Hang on, I'm messing my words up here. NASCAR came out with a rule that if you have to ask for a waiver for a non-medical issue plus a birth of a child, you lose all your playoff points. So if you get suspended for right hooking a guy, you lose all your playoff points. Now, I do believe that you can, depending on when it is during the season, let's say it's in the middle of the season when you get the suspension, you can still rebuild your playoff points, but you lose the ones you have now. I'm not exactly sure. I'm a little bit confused on that rule. So, I mean, I'm worried that is NASCAR going to stay true to that, though, right? Are they going to look differently? Oh, I don't want to suspend Kyle Larson, even though he right hooked them, even though that deserves a suspension. But because we made this rule that if you right hook someone and get a suspension and you ask for a waiver, you lose all your playoff points. And I don't know. That's the only thing I'm worried that NASCAR may not stay true to that. But this is how it is. This penalty is still a massive penalty because it's 15 points. He's, I believe, like 33rd in points now. I think he was inside the top 16 in playoff points. Could be wrong, actually. But I agree with Dale Earnhardt Jr. He said on his podcast that 50 points is way worse than missing a race because at a race, the most you can lose is, at least the most that, Cindric was probably going to lose is 10, 20 points because, he was probably going to still run top 20. I wasn't going to have a great day probably, but comparing like where Cindric would run, I think this actually may be a worse penalty than a suspension. But look, still a massive penalty. Not a great look for Austin Cindric. But this was kind of at least our first test to see what direction NASCAR went with this whole right hook and their new rules about if you get suspended, you don't get to keep your playoff points if you get suspended from the waiver. But that was the decision. We'll see, as the season goes by, is there another situation that comes up like this? Now, let's get into this race. I want to bring up the Xfinity Series race really quickly. Austin Cindric went on drive. He did not make it look easy. There was a caution that came out, and he was making his entrance to pit road. He entered pit road. When there was a caution out, that means pit road was closed, so he had to start in the back, work his way up to the front. And then, I think in the final stage, first lap on the final stage, he got into Corey Heim, ruined Corey Heim's day, had damage. I thought he ended his day there, but slowly, the damage didn't get too worse where he didn't get a tire rub. He did have a tire rub right off the bat, but it kind of went away. And he just made some great moves and had an incredible battle with Carson Kvapil. Really, really impressive. And Carson Kvapil actually really impressive. I thought Carson Kvapil, most of his experience was on just, short tracks because he's one of the best car store drivers ever. I feel like he is, that's kind of his bread and butter, short track racing. But he's, I guess, has some other road course racing experience in some other series. So that's where he's really been working on, it seems like, and he was impressive. I mean, who knows there? If things go, I believe he got passed then by Connor Zilic, and then he had a tire go down. So I don't think it would have mattered, but that was an incredible run by Carson Kvapil. But, Connor Zilic did his thing. He was, I think, supposed to win. I think he was a favorite in the Xfinity Series race, and he got it done. Top 10 for the Xfinity Series race was Connor Zilic first, second William Byron, third Sam Mayer, fourth Austin Hill, fifth Christian Eckes, sixth Jesse Love, seventh Taylor Gray, and eighth Ross Chastain, ninth William Sawalich, 10th Blaine Perkins, and 11th Sammy Smith. I'm going past that. Hey, Blaine Perkins, a great run for him. That's impressive in that car for Jordan Anderson Racing. Ross Chastain in a junior motorsports car, finishing 8th. Great run for Taylor Gray. Jesse Love, good 6th. Not surprising to see William Byron there second, Christian Eckes 5th. Overall, I enjoyed the race. I think this new layout really did allow for better racing because you were going around these more technical spots on the track, and it made for a lot more pass opportunities. You were going into turn 1, that really challenging uphill, hard braking zone, fast section. You were going over that more times. So that's, I think, made this race a lot better. So I like the new layout. I don't know if they're going to return because right now the track is leased. SMI, who is owned by Marcus Smith, is leasing that track and kind of runs the track the weekend by the people that own COTA. So we'll see what the future looks like. But after this weekend, I don't know how, the TV ratings were pretty good for Xfinity. But we'll see, how, I don't know how attendance was. But I think if I was SMI, especially for me, who I'm not the biggest road course fan, I love ovals, I think they should bring it back. All right, we're back. I had to go get some water. My mouth's getting dry. I didn't have any water with me. So the Cup race, Christopher Bell goes back-to-back. One Atlanta, one at COTA. Man, this COTA race, we had a new tire. A softer tire that was meant to wear out. And man, did tires matter. It was beautiful to see this. This is finally what we've been wanting to see. Well, drivers weren't saying, same old tire, which is about, track position. It wasn't about track position. You actually could make passes. You had newer tires on. Pit strategy was a thing. All this stuff was beautiful to see. I mean, really, the final end of this race came down to a caution between Denny Hamlin and Austin Dillon, but Christopher Bell had better tires than Kyle Busch. About 2-lap tires. He ran 2 extra laps. Busch was probably the best car all day. Executed great. Did a great job. But the better tires. Bell did a great job. Did not wreck Kyle Busch. There was a couple opportunities in turn 1 when he could have just plowed him. Of course he wasn't trying to do that, but he got out of the way. Swerved away from Busch, and then was able to gather it back up and then make another charge. And because his car was so good, he was able to get back to him. And Busch was just driving just on the defensive side. Was not the fastest way, but he had to do that because Bell was way better than him. But yeah, we had a great battle there. Busch, I think it was Bell and Busch that made contact in the S's, and I think Busch and the radio said something that was bent. And then that allowed Bell to take the lead there, and then Byron passed him, and then we had a great battle there. We thought Byron was going to make a move, bump him or something. He didn't really race him hard. He raced Bell clean. Of course, easily he couldn't use the bumper, could have just drove in the back of him, but he wanted to race him clean because Bell earned that. He didn't race Busch with disrespect, so I don't think Byron was going to try to pass him with a dirty move. And Bell ended up winning it. It was a great race, guys. Like I said, tires were great. A lot of strategy was good. SVG was in the mix. Our top 10, Christopher Bell first, William Byron second, third, Tyler Reddick, fourth, Chase Elliott, fifth, Kyle Busch, sixth, Shane Van Gisbergen, seventh, Chris Buescher, eighth, Noah Gragson, and ninth, Alex Bowman, and 10th, Todd Gillen. Great run for 2 of the motorsports cars. Todd Gillen, I heard he had a wild day, a lot of mistakes. And then also Noah Gragson. I never thought Noah Gragson could even run that good at a road course for him. But Noah Gragson, 8th. Great job. Chris Buescher, not surprising. SVG I thought was in the mix there. I thought it was going to be a battle between him and Kyle Busch for the win, but then SVG, he had slower pit stops, maybe not as good execution, on the racetrack. He said that he was not really good on new tires. His car just didn't handle well. He was better on older tires. Restarts, he said he wasn't really that good at. His car didn't handle well on restarts. So I think just overall his car and team execution, because there was times where on pit road, he was leading the race and then got beat on pit road by Busch, and Busch was able to kind of retake the lead there. So I think just not overall a solid execution day, I think, hurt him. I mean, let's see here. Who led the most laps? Yeah, Kyle Busch led the most laps of 42. SVG led the second most laps in 23. And then Christopher Bell led 8 laps. William Byron, great run, like I said. Third, Tyler Reddick. I did want to scroll down here. Connor Zilch. Wow, man. Connor Zilch. We talked about this race. On lap 1, we saw a Ross Chastain move. Ross Chastain sends it in there, like a terrible move in the sense that he goes like right on the curb of this turn 1 entrance, and this turn 1 has so much space, and then just takes out Chase Elliott. A terrible move. I don't know what he was doing on lap 1, like a desperation move, like a move that you would make in like the final lap or the final restart of the race. And Chase Elliott was pissed. I believe near the end of this race, Elliott had a chance to take out Ross or give him the bumper, give him the favor, and Ross just moved out of the way. Smart move by Ross, but not a great move by Ross. And the funny thing about this whole thing with Ross is that, yes, did it take out and hurt guys like Connor Zilch and Denny Hamlin. I saw that Ty Gibbs won airborne again. But Ross had a great conversation with Carson Oswald, with the way that Carson Oswald was racing aggressive and all this kind of stuff. And then a week later you see Ross do this type of crap, man, just kind of embarrassing for Ross. And he also, I guess, declined comments, did not want to talk to the media after, which also I don't think it's a great look either. But Connor Zilic was inside the top 15, and then I think it was like, what was it say here, turn 11. We saw, it was like it was during the restart, I believe, when they were on low air pressure and Daniel Suarez went over these curbing, and the car kind of bottomed out and just lost it, and then Zilic didn't, there was just smoke. Zilic chose high towards the wall of the racetrack, and then Suarez was still coming up, killed the front of Zilic's car. He spun out and ended his day. Feel bad for Zilic. I actually thought Zilic could have, he was running like top 5 lap times, I believe. He was fast. I think he actually could have competed for the win, in my opinion. Some people were thinking, top 10, top 5. I thought he really could have got up there because he was running fast and passing guys that, he talked about and he watched on TV when he was a kid. So, a really impressive run by Zilic. Stinks that his teammate kind of took him out there and made a mistake there, but that's just that's just what happens sometimes in these races. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this race. Happy that I think tires are saved this race. Because I think beginning of stage 1 was exciting with a lot of stuff happening, and then stage 2 was kind of chill, just kind of straightforward, and then stage 3 was really fun to watch with its different tire strategy. So that was really fun. And like I said, I don't know what the future looks like for COTA. I hope it comes back. Even though I'm not the biggest road course fan, this was fun. I like the short course, more action from this course. I really enjoy it. Hopefully SMI comes back. Hopefully SMI leases this track. I know they're building like an amusement park and all this stuff, so that could add cost to this lease for the weekend. So we'll see. But big fan of this race at COTA. Overall, great weekend. Hopefully they come back, like I said. All right, guys, we got fan questions. I've really been enjoying doing these. I started them last week. So I had like 18 comments. I believe I have like 15 questions, I believe. I know I had to respond to one that a guy asked me if I did top 5 hauler liveries, and I already did that, so I had to show him that one. But so, first question by Kellen, I believe. Hopefully I'm not, if I can speak right now, mispronouncing your name. Why did Rennick or Byron not make a move? And I talked about this in the podcast. I think it's a respect thing. I don't think NASCAR Cup Series drivers want this to be a crap show. They want to race with respect. They don't want to just plow people over. I think Byron and Rennick, they have respect for the leader in Bell, who I think has raced him clean over the years. I don't think they want to take a win away from him like that. It's not fair. They want to race with respect. They want to show that the Cup Series, the drivers in the Cup Series actually can show respect. And they're not like, this is the Cup Series. This is not the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series and the ARCA Series. This is where the best in the world race. And they prove why they're the best in the world, because they race hard and they race with respect. And I think that's why you didn't see any dirty move at the end of this race for the win. Next question from Ryan. I'm assuming you're a Brad K fan. What is your favorite Brad K scheme in all of his years of racing? Oh, boy. This is a hard one. I've really recently, rest in peace, Kings of Hawaiian, RFK. I've really enjoyed the Kings of Hawaiian schemes. His pretzel one, those have always been really good. It's Kings of Hawaiian pretzel bites, delicious. I like the color orange. I'm a Broncos fan, as you can see. Broncos sweatshirt. Broncos are actually becoming a better team. They're making improvements. This is a NASCAR show, but I really enjoy this Kings of Hawaiian. But when I started watching Brad, he was Miller Lite, and I could not. I couldn't buy a Miller Lite t-shirt. My dad's like, nope, you ain't buying it. I was like, I think I was like 7, 8 years old. There's no way I'm going to wear a Miller Lite t-shirt at that age. So I've always enjoyed the Miller Lite paint schemes. It was kind of cool. Some of his throwbacks, his Rusty Wallace throwbacks were cool. I always enjoyed the Miller Lite paint schemes. But I think the Kings of Hawaiian schemes have always been my favorite. Always liked those schemes, and stinks they're gone. But that's just part of the business in NASCAR. Another one from a Ryan. What is your favorite road course? My favorite road course is Watkins Glen. I went there in 2022, the first year in the next gen car. Sat in turn 1. That was really cool. I think it was hard to get used to going to a track that you couldn't see the whole track at. I kind of like that thing. That's one thing I like about NASCAR, is that if you sit high enough, you can see the whole action. That's one of the unique things about NASCAR. Um, I like, just how, they go down to the hill in turn one, and there's a little bit of banking to help them out, and then they have to throttle it back down. They go over these rumble strips, and then they hit it back, and they go through this high bank, this elevation change of these S's, dude, and that is so fun to watch them go through that. So Watkins Glen's always been my favorite. It's the one, ever since I watched NASCAR, that was the one track that the one road course everyone loved. I think for me, I wasn't a big fan of Sonoma because it was so like techno and slow. I like high speed tracks and high speed action, and that's what Watkins Glen delivered. So that's why I like Watkins Glen still to this day. That's my favorite road course in NASCAR. When is payback fair or foul in NASCAR? I'm curious to see if the 9 waits or ultimately does nothing to the 1. Well, this is from I think his last name is Thomas. Technically the 9 got to the 1, but then the 1 moved out of the way, did not want to get punted by the 9. Good move by him. I think weird thing is, like, I don't know what is fair and foul when it comes to payback. I think most drivers, the way I look at it is that if you hit me, I have the right to hit you back. If you bump me out of the way, I have the right now to bump you back. If you wreck me, well, I'm probably going to do the same to you. With the whole thing with the whole Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon incident, we didn't see anything really happen crazy after that because Dillon got suspended. I think the drivers were like, well, I'm in the playoffs now. I don't need to worry about Austin Dillon here. I'm not going to get him. I'm not going to waste my time with him because he kind of got a penalty. And I think, we didn't really see much between those two. I assume when they raced around each other, I mean, neither Denny or Joey was going to give Austin Dillon any respect or any inch during that time. I think it just depends. I think everyone knows, if I bump you, you bump me, I'm going to bump you back type thing. I think there's a driver code there, but I do think right hooking someone, like we've talked about at the beginning of this episode, that's wrong. Can't do that, especially on a high-speed track. That's the worst move you can do in NASCAR. It's the most dangerous move because going 180 mile an hour into a wall, and then there's a chance that you can bounce off that wall and come into oncoming traffic. That's a terrible move. So I think payback's okay. Small payback, bump here, I bump you back, it's fine, but I think right hook, everyone knows it's the worst thing you can do. Never do that. That's when you draw the line there. Next question. How tall are you? And this is from Gavin. I appreciate the question. A lot of people have asked me this question. Some people think I'm 9 feet tall. Some people think I'm 8 feet tall. Some people think I'm 7 feet tall. The correct answer, I have responded to this question before. I'm 6 feet 6 inches, 244 pounds, a pure machine. All right, no, I'm not really, not trying to hype myself up there. 6'6", it's cool. Being tall, I guess, right? You can reach things and stuff. But I'm 6'6", If I was in the NBA, I would feel pretty normal, feel actually pretty small, because I think that most guys are in the NBA are around that height. That's like the average height, I feel like, in the NBA. And then you have guys who are like 6'10", 7 foot. Or you have like Wemby, who's like 7'6", whatever. It's tall. That's how tall I am. Next question from Nobody Point GK. What was the first livery you remember as a kid that really stuck with you? Mine is probably the classic Jeff Gordon, DuPont or Toaster, Home Depot. The first one that stood out for me is Kyle Busch's M&Ms, because this was around 2000, what was it, 2013. That was my first full season watching NASCAR, and it was Kyle Busch. As a kid, I was around 8, 9 years old around that time. M&M's was the thing, man. That was a candy. I know M&M's. I just started watching NASCAR as a kid. My dad, I knew what M&M's was. The greatest piece of candy you could ever eat, put in your mouth. I love M&M's. And I think it was great. It was like a perfect marketing because kids love candy. It was perfect. Kyle Busch, it was, the candy man. He was the bad guy still, but I think that's why kids like Kyle Busch still, because he drives like M&M's car, and people can relate to that. I think relatable sponsors is what we don't really have much in NASCAR anymore that can relate to people or kids or like food sponsorships. Like Kroger's with RFK, they have a lot of food products, but they're not. But Kroger's, they have a bunch of different retailers, so you're not having the same car, I guess, Busch Light is a great sponsor for adults because people love drinking beer. Adults like drinking beer. So that's good for fans to resonate to that. Kings of Lion, right? That's why I loved Kings of Lion so much on Brad Keselowski's car, because I was a Brad Keselowski fan, and I love the Kings of Lion rules, because that was actually one thing I can spend my own money on and support. And that's how I can do it. And I loved it. It was good stuff. So the one that resonated the most for me when it came to a sponsor or a paint scheme was the M&Ms of Kyle Busch. Next question from 9. I'm going to call you 9. Do you think Brad Keselowski will win this year? As a Brad Keselowski fan, I'm biased. I do think he can win a race this year. Last year in 2024, he won the Goodyear 400 at Darlington, which is considered the most toughest track in NASCAR, and it's the place too tough to tame was the nickname of it. And that was impressive. Brian, I believe, is now 41. He's getting to near the end of his career. You would think, drivers retire around that time. 45, I feel like, is not a new number when drivers retire. I think Brad now has the control. He's the owner in the team he's racing for. So I think if Brad doesn't feel like he can do it anymore, I think he'll pass the torch to someone that can do it. But I think right now Brad's still, in my opinion, very good, competitive. He's got, RFK's got a lot of support from Ford. I think, in my opinion, Brad could win any super speedway still. He still has that skill set, even though I think the skill set has been taken away with this new, super speedway package now. But I really do think he can. He's always been really, really good at Darlington ever since the next gen car. So I would pick him to go win Darlington this year again, especially the day race, the Goodyear 400. I think he can go back to back. I mean, I went to the Center 500. He did not run as well. I think it seemed like his cars just suited him better during the day. So I look at Brad Keselowski being a contender this coming, I guess it's next month or in May, I think, is when the Goodyear 400 is. That's when I can see Brad. That's the one race I see Brad winning. Next question from I can't really read your full username there, so I'm going to call you Is it okay to fall Kyle Busch washed at this point? Been almost 60 races without a win. Would have loved to see it soon, but at this rate, I don't think it will happen unless it's at a super speedway. Appreciate the question, I don't think it is okay to call Kyle Busch washed. He almost won Kona. I think, if he was on the same set of tires there, I think he would have won that race. Also, there was a caution there with like 22 laps to go or whatever it was. Or I don't know when it was. I think it was like 16 laps to go in that Kona race. And that's then what allowed Bell, he was like 2.5 seconds back. I think if that race stayed green, I think those tires would have worn better on Bell, because Bell still had to pass guys, and he was the one having to push. Busch couldn't. He had clean air. Busch just couldn't ran his normal race and not push those tires. I think Bell would have to be the one to push tires. I personally think the reason that Busch has not won is because I don't think the equipment and RCR is there. The resources they have, even though I think they're a number one Chevy team, they're certainly not performing like it. It seems like Busch just doesn't have the comfortability. This car does not suit Kyle Busch's driving style. Now, I think if he has a fast car, he can do something with it, because we saw in 2023 he won 3 races. One at Auto Club, one at Talladega, and one at Gateway. But for some reason, I just don't think the speed's there for RCR. And also, you see with Busch wrecks, he's just talking about how he's pushing the car too much. He's trying to do more than the car can actually do. That's why I think you're seeing Busch wreck. I do not think Kyle Busch is washed. I think if Kyle Busch was at Joe Gibbs Racing, where he still could have chose to stay at, but he went to leave because he didn't want to take, I believe Joe Gibbs Racing, or at least Joe Gibbs said that he would have had to take money out of his own pocket to pay Busch to race for him instead of going to get a sponsor. I think if Busch was in any of the top equipment, he would be winning races, in my opinion. Next question, I'm going to combine these two from P_Philly 7116 and Showing _5 Eason. I could be butchering the crap out of that. Well, one says, why is Ross Chastain the way he is? Question mark. And the other one says, how Bush League is Ross? Well, man, I think a lot of people probably are not a big fan of his move that he made in the first lap of the Kona race. It was not a great move. It was a low percentage move. That was not a Bush League move. That was a ARCA move. That was a Truck Series move there. Especially on lap 1, dude. Driving in there, takes out Chase Elliott, ruins a bunch of races for people. Doesn't talk to the freaking media about it after the race. I think the reason that Ross even, when we knew about, Ross Chastain being Ross Chastain that he is now, was when 2022 came around. He got his first, really, really good opportunity in the NASCAR Cup Series with Trackhouse full time. He was aggressive. He was getting into drama with everyone. Denny Hamlin, he had a massive rivalry with Denny Hamlin. I think he got into it with Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson. He got into it with anyone. And then ever since 2023, when he got into it with Kyle Larson, he got a big old bad chat with big bad boy Rick Hendrick. And ever since then, he hasn't been that same guy. But also, I think the speed has not been there for Trackhouse, so you don't see him competing for wins, being as aggressive. I think for me, the reason that Ross is just so aggressive the way he is because he doesn't want to lose his ride. He was a guy that had to race for small teams and work his way up, and now he's there. He does not want anyone taking his ride, so I think he is just, at times, he's desperate, and he makes mistakes, and that's then when he gets into it with other guys, and he gets other guys mad. I think you're seeing maybe a little bit of maturity from him, where he's a little more respectable and not making those stupid moves, but then you still have cases like this at Kona, where he's getting a little too desperate or making a stupid move on lap one of the race like this, where you're driving there, you take out a bunch of guys and ruin their races. Look, man, I love Ross Chastain. I think he's great for the sport. I would say Carson Hocevar has taken over from being the aggressive guy of the NASCAR Cup Series. I think Ross has got to step back. You see Hocevar, the young guy. I don't even know how old Hocevar is yet. I think he's under 25 years old, being the aggressive guy now. But I hope that, I still hope that Ross keeps the aggressiveness because he's great to watch and he's a great part of the sport. Next question from Hay: is Alex Bowman going to execute and win a race this year? I think Alex Bowman can definitely win a race this year. He's racing for Hendrick Motorsports. Last year he won at the Chicago Street Race, which is not a track I would expect Alex Bowman to win at, but he did. Did a great job in the rain there and made it happen. A lot of people make a bunch of jokes about how Alex Bowman is the worst, he's terrible at Hendrick Motorsports. He's the worst. And then everyone was teasing that he was going to lose his ride and Justin Haley was going to take it over. And look, I think there's always pressure at Hendrick Motorsports because when you're racing at Hendrick Motorsports, you have to win. And I think one win a year at Hendrick Motorsports probably isn't good enough. Especially when you're, on the younger side, when I think Alex is like 31, 32-ish. I think he can definitely win. I don't know where I expect him to win because he hasn't shown down at speed anywhere. I think Las Vegas is a great place. I can easily see him win. Las Vegas is next week. I can easily see him win at Las Vegas. If I were to expect him to win anywhere, I think to me the Chicago Street Race was a little bit of I would say it was a luck game, but he just did a great job, executed, and strategy worked out for him. So really, I couldn't expect him to win anywhere, but if I was going to pick a track where he's won at before and he's good at, and Hendrick's good at, I'd go Las Vegas. Next question from Bart: when is your next in-person race? My next in-person race that is scheduled, wink, wink, I can't wink, is Pocono. Pocono, I'm from Pennsylvania. It's where I'm living. It's where I'm recording this thing right now. I love Pocono. It's hometown track. I live about 2 hours from the track. Last year, I camped in the infield for the first time ever. It was awesome. What an experience. Pocono does an incredible job with their camping experience. I would recommend anyone, if you're close to Pocono, go to Pocono, dude. I mean, I want you camp at Pocono. Come from Thursday to Sunday. That's how long you're able to camp at Pocono. I think you can tent camp there for $250, 2 people. It's not bad. Bring your bike along. Bring some food. Bring a grill. It's a great time, dude. I mean, yeah, bring a bike. Bike is the most important thing. Bike around. I couldn't tell you how many times I biked around the infield at Pocono. Also, Thursday night, they allow you to bike or walk on the actual track for 2 hours straight. The greatest time in the world. Awesome experience. Pocono was great. I know the racing hasn't been I feel like the racing actually has been really good there the past 2 years. Last year, at least, was not the best because during the air and the cars are, these drivers are understanding how to race these cars and usually the race gets pretty strung out. But, the overall fan experience there at Pocono is incredible. Can't wait to go back. And then the last question, I love the new layout at Kona. I love the new layout. It creates great passing opportunities. You're going around the more technical sides of Kona. Turn 1, which is always a challenge. You got to go around there a lot more, so it created for a lot more passing opportunities. Turn 6A and 6B, they call it, was a great passing opportunity too, a new turn. Tires mattered. It was great. I love this new layout. Hopefully NASCAR comes back to COTA. All right, guys, that is a wrap on today's episode of talking about COTA. Can't wait for Phoenix this week. New tire, option tire. Can't wait for it all, guys. We will come out on the podcast next week, not on Saturday. I promise you, I hope. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this, goodbye.